Chairman Alonzo Drek thanks you for your sacrifice.
Captain, did you know Drek's secret project was a Blargian snagglebeast?
It is. I wonder why it wasn't in any of my intel. I was expecting something much less lethal.
The surge of remasters makes the reimagining of the first Ratchet and Clank that much more surprising. God of War 3 Remastered showed Sony's preference to go for the hasty up-res over a full, respectful reboot. Ratchet and Clank is getting the full reimagining treatment, basing this new title off the 2002 PS2 classic of the same name. Both gaming and Ratchet and Clank have changed a lot within that decade and a half, and those changes for the dynamic duo haven't all been positive. So does Ratchet and Clank adapt or feel like a relic of the past? Let's find out here in this review of Ratchet and Clank.
Just relax and remember what I taught you.
What did you teach me? Captain? Oh boy.
The original Ratchet made its name through its unique worlds, witty writing, and most of all, its inventive sci-fi weaponry. While all preserved of varying degree, the shooting and firearms have seen the most updates. Leveling up weapons through use has always been the most rewarding way to upgrade, since it encourages an active participation and yields noticeable results complete with a fancy jingle. The less active half of upgrading comes in the form of a grid-based system, where you fill in hexagons for small buffs and surround special areas for bigger buffs. Both of these systems are two different approaches to upgrading and complement each other well, given their distinct inactive and active approaches. The more active approach to upgrading accurately encourages the best part of the game, blowing everything up. Few games are as fun as Ratchet and Clank, and it's a key factor to how the series can pump out so many titles. Fun seems like a generic term, but that's the best word to describe how happy this game looks at all times. Enemy designs are colorful, inventive, and full of life, even as they die, which can be attributed to their exaggerated animations. Weapons are silly but functional, and while it recycles a lot of old favorites, it cherry picks the best ones to mix with the few new guns. For example, the Pixelizer is my personal favorite, and an easy contender for best shotgun ever. Strafing and flipping around while never letting go of the trigger and seeing aliens explode into scores of bolts doesn't get stale, a testament to how good the core wacky weapon-based combat is. The Clank sections tax your brain as much as the Ratchet sections tax your trigger finger. Clank can reprogram tiny robots to change forms in order to unlock doors and progress. Figuring out the precise way to manipulate the robots and move through the environment beautifully straddles the line between difficult and accessible. You'll spend just enough time in these sections to build up to a satisfying solution that you have earned, yet you won't dwindle hours away as you struggle to put two and two together. While not as complex as the puzzle segments in A Crack in Time, these rebooted Clank sections are the fine-tuned cerebral element that the 2002 game was sorely missing. The rebooted story has seen the inverse amount of improvement. Ratchet and Clank's origin story is the background to the bigger picture, the scooter-riding, borderline charming Chairman Drek destroying planets to make his own super planet. To say that this reimagining has butchered the original story by cutting out interesting twists and neutering the characters would be a massive understatement. Whether it's because of the movie, lowered ESRB rating, or both, this reboot has almost none of the playful sarcasm that made the original's characters so universally great for all ages. Every edge of sarcastic wit has been sanded off, dulling memorable personalities down to kid-friendly, bland husks of what they once were. Take the Pogotaru tour guide. In the original, he was a total sleazeball, complete with the comb-over and vocal cadence of an infomercial salesman. There was nothing inherently offensive about him, but he was memorable to say the least. The reboot belittles him to a boring soccer dad, ready to help you on your journey without an ounce of lovable scumbaggery, and this applies to almost every character. Hoverboard pro Skid McMarks has made the switch from lovable buffoon to the most insufferable, dead-eyed stoner stereotype who spouts all of the game's most cringeworthy lines. Chairman Drek has taken a hit too, no longer commanding attention through his deep voice and threat-laced demands, but instead prancing around the screen like a gag reel idiot, only worthy of making children laugh through slapstick humor. Ratchet and Clank, however, have seen the biggest setback. The first game really sold how these two were only together for one mission. They kept their goal at the forefront despite their constant disagreements, and their arcs added personal drama in the middle of something as grand as saving the galaxy. The rebooted Ratchet and Clank like each other from the get-go and have no hint of discomfort or tension, which leaves no room for growth. Like the rest of the cast, they are stagnant shells of their former selves and have shedded that elusive charm that makes them appealing to kids and adults. The game still has plenty of lines that made me laugh out loud and is generally pleasing to listen to. That much almost can't be denied, but it starts to crumble once you look at why the original stood out the way it did. Both titles stuck out for their visuals. Ratchet and Clank literally shines in a way that we could only dream of back in 2002. Pixar-like gets thrown around a lot for this series, and I won't use it here, but it's tempting given how beautifully everything animates and how colorful it all is. Exotic palettes paint the alien planets and give each level a distinct atmosphere that brags about the game's technical merit and sublime art direction. Fluid and highly hyperbolic animation match the personality the visuals evoke and give more life to the cartoony look, something the Groovatron dances highlight exquisitely. While the soundtrack has been drastically downgraded to a generic sci-fi score not worthy of shining the original's grav boots, the visuals realize the stylized dream the 2002 game inspired in our minds 14 years ago. Ratchet and Clank is more of a great game than a great remake. Slaughtering the characters, story, and soundtrack are unnecessary casualties that sadly keep this reimagining from topping the original. Updating the RPG-laced gunplay and modernizing the visuals defy those shortcomings though, not excusing them, just giving beautiful reasons to momentarily overlook them as you blow up everything in sight and upgrade whilst doing it. Divorcing it from the thought of what could have been is awfully hard for my inner 11-year-old self that just wants to see the same exact game running on a PS4 with better shooting. But my 24-year-old self can see the enhancements and look past the flaws long enough to appreciate the revival of one of the most iconic platformer duos of yesteryear. Ratchet and Clank gets an 8 out of 10. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.